Bullhead City was just found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. True crime Arizona correspondent Brianna Whitney. Here now, you've been following this since the get-go.
I have. All eyes were on this, and it was interesting because this trial was live streamed in the courtroom, so everybody has been watching this in real time. It was just less than an hour ago a jury found Hannah Gutterrez guilty of one charge and not guilty of another. She now faces up to 18 months in prison and a $5,000 fine. Gutterrez was supposed to be in charge of the prop guns on the set of the Alec Baldwin movie Rust in New Mexico 3 years ago. Somehow, live bullets fired from the gun instead of blanks, killing cinematographer Hannah Gutterrez. During the trial, her attorneys argued she is being used as a scapegoat, but in today's closing, the prosecutor said Gutterrez failed to ensure the basic safety rules of her job.
Ms. Gutterrez stood by and did nothing in between scenes when that stuntman, who had certainly been sent the message that he could do whatever he wanted with those guns, no one was going to intervene. The person tasked with intervening was not going to do it. That was clear.
Gutterrez was also found not guilty of tampering with evidence. Alec Baldwin was also charged with involuntary manslaughter, just like Gutterrez. His trial is slated to start in early July. A lot of people looking at today's outcome and thinking, what does this might mean for Alec Baldwin?
Right, because you can imagine his defense team basically arguing, hey, look, it wasn't his fault. It was her fault. She was convicted. What do you think this conviction means?
It could go both ways, right? They could look at this trial and say, look, everybody on set had some sort of culpability here, that safety measures were not being followed. Her team was saying that he created kind of a hostile, disorganized, chaotic environment. Will that be talked about in his trial? Possibly. But his attorneys could also say, it was her fault. She was convicted. It can't possibly also be Alec Baldwin's fault for this. And the jury came back quickly in this trial today. They only took 2.5 hours to deliberate on this. That's pretty fast when you're talking about such a high-profile trial. A lot of times we'll see many hours, if not many days, to reach a verdict. And I did watch video of a juror that was being interviewed right outside the courthouse. He said it really just came down to everybody in that deliberation room on the jury saying, safety should have been top priority, top of mind, and Hannah Gutterrez was culpable in that not happening. And then that created the problem. Hannah Gutterrez wouldn't have died had everybody followed those safety precautions.
Yeah, because it seems very black and white. How did live bullets end up instead of blanks? But there was also a bunch of character witnesses who said, like, she had cocaine in the hotel room and other things that I think maybe compounded it to go against her.
Absolutely. There was also a lot of emotional testimony from crew members too, and I think that really affected the jury as well when they say this went off and I watched our cinematographer die in front of our eyes. I think that was powerful. And so when you're the jury looking at all of this set of circumstances, if the person whose main job it was to make sure that there was no live rounds that ever should have gotten on the set in the first place, it's clear that that's what affected them most when it came to their decision.
Be curious to see how long she's facing potentially.
Yeah, up to 18 months, but that could completely range. So I think everybody who's going to be paying attention to Alec Baldwin's trial will also be curious to see what her sentence is going to be.
All right, we'll have more on that when it happens. Brianna Whitney, thank you for that.